Welcome to Cosmic Imprint, a podcast bringing you weekly goodness as the home of lightworkers, new paradigm leaders, sensitive souls, magical beings, spiritual seekers, and both spiritual CEOs alike, who are ready to live life in alignment with your own soul's truth and who are here to buck the trends, color outside the lines, thriving in this lifetime's incarnation. Join me each week for conversations about all things human design, weaving my own soul magic where I'll share my intuitive gifts, love of all things metaphysical, manifestation, mindset, fifth dimension, spirit guides, light beings, and beyond. Let's explore your cosmic imprint together. Oh, hey there, Earthling. Thank you for listening in to this week's episode. I am excited. It's all about our authority here on the show this week. Our human design authority, aka our unique decision-making tool that we have within us, our inner compass, our gut voice, our intuition, whatever label you want to slap on it, we all have one that is unique to us. And it is so important, I believe, so important that human design can give us these sorts of just awareness to truths about ourselves that we're so often heavily conditioned by our upbringing, our, surroundings, our cultural, background, that our decisions are supposed to come from a place of the mind, of logic, that we're supposed to think things through, be practical. However, what human design shows us is that actually no one is supposed to make decisions from their mind. We all have something within us, or a way of unlocking that something within us that is our authority. And honestly, when I found out about mine, being a mental projector, all mental projectors have what's known as sounding board authority, and I'll cover that during this episode, but essentially, it quite literally blew my mind because it suddenly made sense why I could never understand. People would say to me my entire life, oh, just, listen to your gut. What does your gut say? Or go with your gut. And I was like, there was nothing there. And once I saw my human design chart, I was like, oh my God, there is nothing there, right? Because my sacral is undefined. And yeah, it just was amazing. And I'll talk more on that in this episode with the authorities. But what I wanted to share this week with this episode, this is an excerpt from a live training I held just recently within my Facebook group called Cosmic Imprint. If you do want to join the Facebook group, by the way, and be in the mix for all the live mini trainings I give, have your chance to be able to be there live to ask questions or even watch the replays, and I pop in and answer questions if you have any when you watch it on replay. The link for that is in with the show notes with this episode. And anyway, in this episode, you'll hear it's all about authorities. It's all about all of the different authorities that exist, and I go through each of them and to describe them all. So we cover emotional authority, sacral authority, splenic authority, the two different types of ego authorities, which is manifested and projected, then self-projected authority, sounding board, like I mentioned, and lunar authority for you beautiful reflectors. So we go through the whole shebang. So this is a perfect episode if you want to know more about your own, or whether you know kind of everybody's, say, in your family, and you want to know what everybody's unique authority is and how it works. This episode has got you covered. If you want to jump to a particular authority type, there's timestamps in the show notes so that you can kind of get down to it, because let's face it, I am a projector and efficiency is my middle name. So there is no need to have to sit through an entire, 45 50-minute podcast episode. If you just want to have your like straight to the point, hey, I just want to know my authority type, I've got your back. I've got you covered, because I know exactly that that's my way that I show up to things. I want to be efficient. I want to get in, get what I need, and then carry on with whatever else I need to get on with. But as I say, this is the perfect episode if you want to know a bit more about all the different authority types. And if you want to know a bit more about other people in your life, not only your own, we're going through all of them. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to get straight into it. Sit back, have your pen and paper, your journal, your notes on your phone ready. This is going to be one that you're going to want to jot down a few notes on so that you can keep those little reminders for yourself to come back to about how your unique authority shows up and supports you day to day. Good morning, Earthlings. Hello, how are you all doing? Sending you so much love. We're just about on the full moon with the eclipse, so just an epic time all round. I hope you've loved a few of the tips to go with your individual human design on the full moon and getting in amongst all that good stuff. Today we are talking all about your aligned decision making using your human design authority, and we're going to go through a little mini training about each of the authority types. It is a time of year that is, I guess, particularly heightened when it comes to the outside pressures that we kind of come across at this time of year. There's a lot going on. It's kind of coming into that holiday season. This year has obviously been a lot in full anyway for everyone. So this is very much just an opportunity to get a little bit of clarity on how you uniquely make aligned decisions for you, because it is so important when we come to times like this, when there's a lot of demands on us. We've got a lot going on. There's a lot of the outside world sort of trying to project onto us their expectations, or feeling that pressure around maybe the way in which we've shown up in other holiday seasons, and coming into sort of this time of year when we've got a lot of asks of us energetically, not only within our own life, but, you know, our friends, our family, our loved ones, our workplaces. So this is just a way for you to get clear on how you uniquely can trust in your authority and start to use it, and just see how much that supercharges things for you in terms of being able to make aligned decisions that are correct for you, not correct for someone else, not what somebody else expects you to do, what society tells you you should do, aligned for you. And so let's, without further ado, dive on in, because we've got 8 different authority types to chat about today. So I want to make sure I get to all of them and just give each of you beautiful souls a bit of an insight, a bit of a reminder. You know, some of you have gone really full into your human design chart and had a full reading. Others of you are just starting on this journey. So just want to make sure that we're covering off everything, so that no matter where you're at, we can always use these little reminders about how to be aligned with our truth and how to make sure we are living our human design, right? I myself have many times when I have to kind of come back to center and go, oh, that's right, this is my human design. This is how I am supposed to show up in this world. So we all can use reminders and a little bit of just soul support, right? So when we're talking about authority, what are we talking about? To basically give you the big picture with authority is this is your way of making aligned decisions that are correct for you. The universe has got your back. There is a way in which we all uniquely can make decisions that are always going to be in our own best interests, that are aligned for us, even if they don't quite make any logical sense at the time that we make that decision. Because remember as well, our human mind, no one has got that as their decision maker. However, we have been conditioned by society to use that, or to rely on that, or to operate from that logical mindset. And that's very much to do with our sort of paradigm that we have been in up until now is that society has conditioned us to try and say that you should use your mind, think it through, think logically, be practical, make the practical decision, for example. But in our human design, no one has their mind center as their decision maker. And there are 8 different authority types that we're going to run through. Obviously, some are far more common than others. So we're literally going from 50% of the world having emotional authority, which will be the first one we touch on, right down to 1% of the world, beautiful unicorn reflectors having lunar authority. So we've got a full spectrum to go through. And I guess just as a little way in which I love to describe authority is understanding that all of our centers and chakras that we have defined for us within our human design. So when you take a look at your chart, all of those shapes that are colored in, not the white ones, all the ones that have got color, your defined centers or chakras, those are all voices within you that are kind of going to always be giving you feedback, right? They're consistent attributes, consistent gifts that you've got, and energy that you've got within you. And they are going to be the ones that are kind of always sticking their hand up saying, this is my opinion, this is what I think, this is what I'm suggesting that you do, which obviously if we had, in the case of someone who maybe has 7 or 8 different centers defined, 7 or 8 different voices within us ain't going to fly, right? We can't make decisions based on that number of different voices going on within us. So we have one that is, I like to call it the head of the table. So if you can imagine, if any of you want to visualize this, all of your centers and chakras within you are kind of your board members, the ones that are defined within you. And you've got one that is the head of the table who has the final say, so to speak. So the others might chip in with their little bit of advice for you as to what, might be aligned for you. But the one that's at the head of the table, your authority that is identified within your human design, is the one that gets to make the decision, the final say. So let's dive on in. We're going to touch on emotional authority first, because this is the one that, like I say, is 50% of the world's population have emotional authority. And emotional authority comes from your solar plexus. It is, when you take a look at your chart, on the right hand side, it is the triangle shape facing inwards, and it will be colored in brown in most cases, in most chart softwares. And this is the emotional center. It's the solar plexus. And this is the one that gives you your emotional wave if you have this defined within your chart. And it's really helpful for you to take a look at the full channels coming off that solar plexus. They will go right through to meet up with other centers within your design. You might have one, or you might have plenty going on. Emotional authority looks and feels entirely different for every single individual who has emotional authority. And if you have this center defined, you have emotional authority. It's like within the hierarchy of things going on, as long as you have your solar plexus defined, you have emotional authority in some way, shape, or form. Now, the wave that you experience all the time, think of it like it is a fixed chemical process that's just going on within you. And that's probably like, if I can just give one thing to people with emotional authority, that's the thing I love to hand over, because I'm like, we have grown up typically in a world that judges emotions, that tells us that we are supposed to be non-emotional little robots rolling around. But in fact, 50% of the world have got all the feels going on all the time, because that wave from the ups to the downs is just constantly rolling within you. And so you will have times when you are up, you will have times when you're down, you will have times when you're in the chill sort of middle zone, and it just keeps on going for you, and it looks and feels different for you. So there might be a pattern of, say, experiencing that full spectrum of your wave from the up through to the down and back again within 24 hours, or it might take longer. It might take a whole month, for example. So this is where the beauty of understanding and getting comfortable with your emotional spectrum is the most important permission slip that I can hand on over. And I have clients I work with who quite literally start to write in their diary or in their phone notes a bit of a journal on their emotions, what they feel at different times every day, you know, maybe when they wake up, at the middle of the day, the end of the day, before they go to bed, just so they can start to get familiar with what their emotional wave looks like for them. So the key to emotional authority, obviously, if you really want to know the fine detail about the components of your unique wave, I dive into that. If I ever give a reading with soul notes, you know, I get right down into the individual gates and channels going on within your design. But the big picture advice, if you have emotional authority, is give yourself time. That is the main thing. If I can just sort of hand over one thing to keep in the back of your mind, give yourself time before making decisions. Because depending where you are in your wave at any given time, you could be on the up and everything sounds amazing. Everything sounds like a great idea, an opportunity, a connection. It's all full of possibility and expectation, and you're just so caught up in the moment and you're saying yes to everything. However, it might not be aligned for you. I always like to describe that the high of your wave is like, imagine you bought a lotto ticket and you went to go check it at the store and you found out you won, right? You're going to be running around like hugging and kissing and screaming and shouting everyone, right? But that's not your actual true self. You actually might be quite a reserved person. However, that upsweep of emotion is going to make you react and make decisions in a way that probably you wouldn't do if you were in your just kind of like chill, you know, calm, central place. So equally, at the other end of the wave spectrum, imagine you are in a low, you know, you're in that time when you just kind of don't know why, but you're just really in a funk, you're really in a low, you're really down. And that is okay, because again, it is perfectly normal to feel the spectrum of emotions and it doesn't define us. It's just a experience we are transiting through at any given time. If you're in a low, you're going to be saying no to things, right? You're going to be going, no, I don't want to come out. I don't want to catch up. I don't want to talk to anyone, or, you know, right through to the extreme of like, basically, fuck this shit, right? Like, that's the thing, right? With an emotional wave is you're going to have the highs, you're going to have the lows. And the gift that comes with it is that you're here to teach the world emotional intelligence, right? Like emotional IQ. You are that person who gets to feel the full spectrum of emotion that we glorious humans get to feel. Simply by sitting on your couch at home, you can tap in to that emotional spectrum and that intelligence that comes with feeling the fullness of life. And you don't even have to leave your house. You know, that's the gift that comes with emotional authority, that you can feel everything so that you can then be that person who can help others, who can empower others, who can say, hey, yeah, I know all about going through life, riding the highs, riding the lows. And here's my wisdom that comes from that. So emotional authority, you're not making decisions in the high or the low. You're allowing yourself time. You're buying yourself time. So I like to say, if you can imagine having a few kind of key phrases tucked away in your back pocket, so to speak, so that if there is ever a situation where you need to make a decision, you can buy yourself that time really effortlessly and seamlessly. This is having a few phrases like, hey, that sounds amazing. I'll just sleep on it and get back to you. Or, wow, thank you for that opportunity. If I can get back to you later and confirm. You know, you just have these sort of phrases that are in alignment for you, the way you would say something. But the crux of it is that you are just buying yourself time so that you can, at the very minimum, always sleep on it. That's kind of like the little, if you can just keep that in mind, at the minimum, sleep on it. But the more familiar you can get with your emotional wave, you're going to know, okay, how quickly does my emotional wave move? Am I the type of person who kind of goes through the highs and the lows all in 24 hours? Or am I the type of person who needs more like a week to sort of consider things? So that's where having a bit of an emotional, feelings diary or something along those lines is really powerful, because it lets you get that clarity on how frequently are you going through your ups and downs and so on and so forth, so that you can almost detach yourself from your emotion and become the witness, right? Witness your emotional wave going on and go, hey, I am not my emotions, but I am having an emotional reaction or experience, or I'm in this part of my wave and I'm going to ride it. And I know that it always is on the move. So what I'm feeling right now is going to keep moving, keep evolving, keep shifting. And chances are, even by later in the day, things might have really shifted and I'm going to be in a completely different emotional location. So it just gives you that clarity, that permission to be your true self and to know that it is okay to have emotions. And chances are, 50% of the world have emotional authority, right? So chances are 50% of the people you're coming across are going through exactly the same thing. So the more we can talk about this and have that open dialogue and empowerment to understand it, just the better, in my opinion. So that's why we're here, that's why we're here learning about our human design. So second most common human design authority type, let's move on to talking about sacral authority. So sacral authority, this obviously is completely and utterly the realm of our sacral beings in this world, right? So this is all our manifesting generators and all our generator energy types. You are the beings who have sacral authority. You are the only types to have sacral authority. Manifestors, projectors, and reflectors don't have it because their sacral is either undefined or open. So that's kind of to give you that clarity on how this plays out as well within, I guess, the different energy types that exist. And this is kind of the thing that helps you to get that clarity on. So this is understanding that your sacral authority voice within you is talking to you all the time. It is directly linked to what excites you, and it is a vibration within you. So the more you can flex that muscle, so to speak. You might have been a bit out of practice. You might have dimmed it. You might have smothered that voice. You might have been trying to make decisions from up in your mind and be, using that logical way of making decisions. Whereas your gut, that inner voice within you, is like dancing, is talking to you, is giving you instant feedback and clarity all the time. So the gift with this type of authority is it gives you a real clear yes or no answer. And if you've been following me for a while, you'll see that I often refer to sacral beings as following the hell yes voices. That saying, right? If it ain't a hell yes, it's a hell no. This is completely what is about for sacral authority. So it is all about that dancing and delight inside of you and that vibration. I've had clients describe it as when they know they're in that hell yes, it's almost like butterflies, and it's very much got that energetic quality to it that's moving, right? It might be that if something is a hell yes for you, you actually sit forward in your chair, right? You're kind of drawn towards it. And it's understanding that yes voice is the yes to follow. Anything that is gray or like meh or even the visceral like hell no, I'm going to kind of take a step backwards in this conversation. Listen to that, because that is your kind of string of breadcrumbs that you're following. And as long as you are following the yeses, that's always going to take you towards whatever it is that is in alignment for you. And it allows you to really use that power you've got to keep on that roll, right? It's like a snowball each day, that if you can keep with that momentum of responding in every moment, and this is a powerful tool that you've got at your disposal, because it allows you to be in your alignment from literally the moment you open your eyes, and you can have you can ask yourself, right? It's not something that you have to wait for the world, obviously, to ask you things to respond to. You can ask yourself. You can say, do I feel like getting out of bed right now, or do I feel like lying here for a moment? And as long as you are sticking with those kind of binary yes or no type questions, you can just keep going from there. Follow the yeses. If the voice within you is like, hell yes, I want to get up and I'm feeling that excitement to start my day, follow that, and then you can keep on rolling with those responses. And what you have to learn kind of as a generator or a mani-gen is boundaries, right? And when we talk about how this is the time of year when we've got a lot of energetic expectations on us, when we've got a lot of people asking for pieces of us, whether it's our time, whether it's our commitment, whether it's our work, expecting a bit more out of us as the sort of end of year ramps up and rolls around, these are the boundaries that it's almost like as a sacral being, you've got massive kind of karma there around learning to set boundaries to look after yourself with love. If you can actually just drop into your inner gut voice and listen to that and follow what it tells you, then that's when that motor, that life force energy you've got within you starts to just become so incredibly magnetic. And think of it like the universe is doing 99% of the work behind the scenes for you. And if you can be in your alignment, there are going to be things sent your way all day long to respond to. And the responding process is so part and parcel of this sacral chakra, right? This is this voice within you that is responding in the moment with clarity, saying, hell yes, I love that. Let's say yes to that. And then you just take that next step forward and you keep following that. So let's now touch on our next authority type that we're going to talk about. Splenic Authority comes from your splenic center, and if you're taking a look at your human design chart, this will be on the sort of lower left-hand side, the triangle shape that's pointing inwards. If you have Splenic Authority, it will be defined for you, colored in brown in most cases in human design chart softwares. Now, this is where we start to get into the ones that aren't quite so cut and dry. Your Splenic Authority comes directly hand in hand with your inner knowing. It comes from your intuitive senses. It's a very sixth sense, ESP style authority. And this is where we get into a realm of really having to have a lot of faith and trust in kind of something that is guiding us, that we possibly, unless you have been kind of raised in an environment that is very open to a lot of alternative modalities, or, you know, in a way that is a very conscious or aware upbringing, chances are you've been raised to fit the mold of society that is actually you make decisions from your logic and you think things through, and you don't just trust a ephemeral sort of nudge from the universe. Who would do such a thing, right? So there can be often a lot of deconditioning needed when you first find out that you have Splenic Authority, because it is directly connected to your inner knowing. And chances are you've known all along that you were intuitive, that you can just sense things, that you just know things. And it's now giving yourself that permission to really let this shine and really allow this to step to the forefront, because you naturally have razor sharp intuition about things. So Splenic Authority, the way this works is that it is spontaneous. So that's your first permission slip to understand that this is not something that's going to be kind of on a regular schedule, right? Like it is going to flit in and flit out spontaneously, and it's very in the moment. So, and it's got absolutely reserves its right to change its mind as well. If you've got Splenic Authority, I hope this is resonating, because everyone that I read for who has Splenic Authority is like, oh my God, yes, it like changes its fucking mind all the time. And how do I navigate that? So sending you a lot of love if you find that you've had that kind of like, oh my God, yesterday it was a yes and now today it's a no and I just can't explain why. This is your gift. This is your magic to learn to use and to really, I guess, the more you can flex this muscle, again, the better, the more powerful it is going to be, and the more you're going to trust in it and just allow that sort of surrender to the flow of how things look and feel for you, and just to recognize that you're here with something that is your own kind of unique combination of magic to trust in, and that is always going to take you to where you need to go, guide you to the things that you need to see or connect with, or the opportunities. And again, a little bit like when we touched on with Sacral Authority, you can't ever know the bigger picture of where you're headed, right? It's allowing that surrender to know that as long as you are following those nudges from the universe that come in when they pop in and in the moment, then that's your wisdom. That's your inner compass taking you on the course that you need to trust, and just surrender to that process, because the end result is going to be so much more magical. I always like to say, like, you know, when we're talking to the universe, right? Send me this or something even better, right? Like, this is the even better. This is the something even better that's coming your way that you could not possibly in your logical human mind ever conceive of. But it comes in that moment that it's just a little nudge, it pops in. And I've had anyone with Splenic Authority talk about it as if it's a bit of a whisper. It might be a look or a feel or a taste in your mouth. It's got this real connection to your sixth sense, intuitive sensory processes. So it's going to be maybe like inner vision, it might be a tingly sensation, it might be sense of smell. All of these sensory processes, you're going to have one that is kind of most heightened for you, and it gives you that feedback in the moment. I've had other Splenic Authority people say that they kind of jokingly describe it as being, it's like their creepometer. So imagine if you're ever in a situation where you walk into a room full of people and there might be someone in the far corner you have never met at all ever in your life, and you've just got that like instant thing of like, that person is not my person. I'm just, no, there's... So, and it might be that everyone else in the room is like, oh, but they're amazing. They might be, you know, like I've known them since like 20 years, right? But for you, whatever reason, that's your like inner knowing, just going like, nah, that's not for me. We're going to stay over here, right? So you can think about that talking to you and guiding you all day long. Well, not all day long, sorry. It is working all day long, but those moments are going to pop in randomly. So you kind of have to trust that it is working away in the background all day long. It might just only stick its hand up and talk to you every now and then on kind of its totally own schedule and agenda. So how can you get to work with Splenic Authority if you're not so familiar with it, or if you haven't been trusting in those nudges that come your way? Get out your notebook, get out your phone notes, have something that you carry with you all the time, and just keep recording them. Learn to listen to those nudges, how it looks and feels, describe it for yourself so that you can start to get really familiar with those hits when they come through for you. And then you can start to build up for yourself a bit of a kind of reference of that you can look back on. And even though it might not make any sense at the time, that, you know, you had this nudge come through that said, hey, you were supposed to go and meet a friend for coffee, but something wasn't quite right, and so you ended up canceling, right? You have no idea what the reason was that you were given that nudge to not go and meet your friend for coffee, but you might have gone instead, and they might have come to your house, for example, rather than going out and meeting at the coffee shop down the road. So you don't know why, but for whatever reason, the universe is giving you that feedback, taking you to where you need to go, the opportunities, the connections, and you can look back on it later and go, oh my God, I didn't go to the coffee shop with my friend. I was actually at home. And while we were sitting in our lounge, the phone rang on my home phone line, and it was a fantastic opportunity that I've been invited to go and connect with some, right? So you were there for that moment when the opportunity arose. So it's getting into that realm of you can look back on your notes later and start to recognize what it did when it took you to the right places, or equally when it kind of safeguarded you from the things that were not in alignment for you. Your Splenic Authority is coming through as a sensory experience that is giving you nudges. It's not sitting with you all day long kind of on this feedback loop. It's coming in, it's giving you a nudge in the moment. And the more you can start to record it for yourself, you'll be able to start to see that distinction between, oh yeah, I had this real like hit come as I was like going to make myself a cup of coffee in the morning, and it told me to go and pick up my phone and check my phone for some reason, and I can't explain why, rather than the anxiety that is going to sit with you kind of, you know, at midnight running through your mind going like, oh my God, I've got this thing on tomorrow. What if it goes wrong, right? So it's kind of understanding that distinction of it's not in your mind, it's coming from a sensory part of you, and it's coming with love, right? It's not sitting there repeating itself over and over again, because that's the kind of, I guess, the second thing to know about Splenic Authority is that it only speaks once and then it disappears. So that's where beginning to record helps you to take note of those hits when they come through, and it's almost like giving the green light to the universe to keep sending you more and more and more, right? It's not going to come back and repeat itself to you, so you kind of have to be prepared and aware of it enough to accept it when it comes in the moment and take heed of it, or write it down, or take note of it, or factor it in with whatever it is that you're doing in your day. So that's covered our Splenic Authority. Now we're going to touch on what's known as Ego Authority. Now from kind of here on in, we're getting into the far more rare authority types. So that's why I just really wanted to start with the ones that are the most common by far and large, because these are the ones that a huge proportion of our, you know, our world are all living with and experiencing. And this is why it's so freaking powerful to know that we all have our own unique way of making aligned decisions, so that we can all start to understand how we all interact with each other and the world and the universe in our power, right? So let's talk about Ego Authority. There are two different variations, so I'm just going to quickly cover both just to give that kind of overview. So Ego Authority comes from our heart chakra, and it is only applicable to manifestors or projectors. The other energy types won't have this. So there is two kind of different variations that if you have Ego Authority, it will either say manifested within your design chart, and that's if you're a manifestor, or it will say projected if you're a projector, for example. So the key to know about this is that this is basically your authority, your way of making decisions is driven by what is it you desire. Like, that's plain and simple. And again, this is one to really understand and give yourself permission to live with, because you don't have any other emotional definition, you don't have a gut voice, you don't have an intuition speaking to you. This is just quite literally your heart, your home of your willpower, your desire, your kind of drive to go after what it is your soul really is craving. And that's the only voice that's talking to you. And you probably have not been empowered to live life with that at the front and center. In fact, for many people who might have this authority, they've probably dimmed themselves to fit in, right? They've gone, oh my God, I don't want to come across as too big, too bolshy, too driven, too kind of, you know, determined to chase down my goals. So it all gets smothered away. And again, we suddenly end up making decisions from our logical mind rather than actually going, you know what, my heart is always going to speak to me with clarity if I have Ego Authority. And it is just literally that consistent drive to achieve whatever it is that you're here to, your soul is here to create in the world. And think of it like your authority. The questions to ask yourself is my authority, is my desire, my drive, my decision making from my authority coming at a kind of win-win energetic framework, right? Because again, remember with manifestors, if they're out of alignment, it's going to come through as like anger. Projectors, if you're out of alignment, it's going to come through as bitterness. So if you're in that kind of energetic spectrum and your authority is talking to you going, oh, but I really want that thing and I'm really fucked off at the world, so I'm just going to go and do it and screw you all, you know that your authority is not leading you towards the things that are actually aligned. It's just working in a way that it's like, I've got the desire and the willpower to make this happen. and you guys, the rest of the world, can get stuff because I'm going to go do it on my own, right? So it's coming back to the win-win universe, the new paradigm, coming at everything with, if I'm going to do this thing, who else gets to win because I'm doing this thing, right? Do I want it? Is it going to let me be in the room to make the decision that I need to make? What's in it for me? Does this allow me to shine and be in my power? Those are all the kind of essences behind ego authority. So your decisions are going to come based on those sort of questions for yourself. Almost like you ask yourself self-focused questions to get comfortable with the fact that, hey, this is actually what my soul really is called and desired to do. So do I really want it? Yes. If I go and take this opportunity, is it going to open a network of people that I can then make epic, connections with and opportunities with? And this is going to drive this thing forward even further and faster and quantum leap things. Or is it coming from that energy of like, if I say yes to this thing, does someone else lose out, right? That's kind of probably the question to ask yourself all the time, so that you can just check, are you doing something in alignment, or are you making a decision based on something that someone else is going to lose because you're out of alignment with whatever it is that you are maybe considering saying yes to? So again, it is not about what is going to make you look or feel like you're following your desires. It's actually embodying the energy of being powerful, of being that person who has an immense capacity to sort of make change. Manifest is obviously to initiate, to create, and it's getting comfortable with the fact that your ego, that heart center, is very forceful and very powerful. And as long as you're always coming from that place of love, and returning to that question of who gets to win when I do this thing or make this decision or go after this opportunity because it's aligned with my authority, that's the core, right? That's the way that we all win. We all, the rising tide floats all boats analogy, right? That if the manifestor or the projector with ego authority is doing something that is in alignment for them and is incredible and is so, high vibrational, the rest of the world are going to benefit because they're bringing to the world something that is so needed, right? And again, it's like trusting in that bigger plan that whatever it is aligned and is correct for you. And forgetting what society has probably tried to tell you the box that you're supposed to fit in, because you're not here to fit in a box. If you've got ego authority, you are definitely here to live life outside of the box. And just to remember as well, it's really rare. So we're into the really rare authority types. So if you feel like a bit of a fish out of water, this is one of the reasons why. Now, we're going to talk about projector specific authorities that exist. And again, we're into the real, when we talk about projectors, these are like the niche within the niche of projectors. So these are not very common. These are very rare authority types and are only specific to these particular type of projectors. So one projector is not the same as another, much the same as one generator is not the same as another. So this is what's known as self-projected authority. And it is, if you are a self-projected projector, which gets to be a bit of a mouthful if you say that 10 times fast, this is coming through as your unique authority. There are no other types of beings who have this as their authority. This comes all from your G center. So when you take a look at your chart, you will have an incredible amount of white space, but you will have your G center, that big yellow diamond in your chest, will be defined, and you will be a projector type, and it will specify in your design that you are a self-projected projector, sometimes referred to as like SPP. So it's understanding that you are someone who is in that very, very minute percent. We're talking like 2 to 5% of the planet here, right? It's a very, very small percentage of people with this authority type. And that's probably like the biggest permission slip, right? You're a fish out of water because you are quite literally surrounded by the world who make decisions, show up in life, live in their alignment completely differently to yours. And that's okay, because you're here to do something completely magical and different, as we all are. Every single being, every single earthling, we are all here to do things in our own unique way. It's just that you have got a very specific way of making aligned decisions for you. Now, your clarity and your alignment comes from basically following your higher self, because that G center, that yellow diamond defined in your chart, is your higher self, your home of self-love. What is it, the direction you are pulled in, your soul's kind of path that you are following, and your identity, right? And the way that you get clarity on that is to speak out loud. And again, this is one of these things that we are not ever, taught to do things in this way. We are told to use our logical minds to make decisions based on what is practical and so on and so forth. For a self-projected projector, the way you make a decision is you need to speak out loud to basically get clarity. So this is your permission slip to talk it out, to talk about everything, even if you're just at home on your own, right? Like, just talk to yourself, because it's getting it out and into the, expressed through your throat, to be able to then hear what it is that your higher self is trying to tell you, right? Because your throat is the way you're kind of manifesting and you're bringing things out into reality. And so that's your way of your higher self being able to speak up and say, actually, you know what, this is what is aligned for you specifically. So basically, I like to say, like, just grab your proverbial microphone, right? Literal or metaphorical, and just talk it out. Hear your own voice, hear your opinion, hear what you have to say, and think of it like a really great way you can approach this is that it's not just saying, do I like this thing? It is having the whole damn conversation of, do I like this thing? Well, actually, yesterday I was talking about this other thing, and then the other day this happened, and then, this morning I woke up and this is what I was thinking. And so you're going through the whole, like, if you imagine a ball of wool, right, that's all been tangled up, and it's like the story is all there, the decision is all there, it's just so jumbled when it's inside you that by speaking it out loud, it just like unravels everything and makes it a linear process of coming to your aligned decisions. So you can literally unravel that ball of wool and get to that clear clarity from beginning to end, because you've been speaking it out loud, which is your process of unraveling all of that into the linear fashion and teasing it out in a way that your true aligned higher self decision is clear and you're able to understand it. So practical tip is just go for a walk with someone, or, go and have a coffee with someone, or even just, like stick your phone on voice notes and record yourself speaking out loud. And you'll get that clarity by allowing yourself that permission to just talk and talk and talk. And you might start out at the start with absolutely no idea of your clarity, but by the end, it'll be there and you'll know what the aligned decision is for you. And obviously with some of these things, it is not all the mundane day-to-day tasks of like, what do I want to have for breakfast, right? This is getting into the realm of, these are the big decisions. These are the things that are more meaningful in your life. The small stuff kind of doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, right? You can do whatever you want. This is like the big stuff, the big momentous decisions, the things that are actually going to have a real lasting impact in your day-to-day existence. So this is where you can really allow this to shine. Now we're going into the even more niche down realm of mental projectors. My energy type, I know we've got a fair few other mental projectors in this group. So this is what's known as sounding board authority, and it only occurs for mental projectors. So again, other projector types do not have this. This is only for mental projectors. It might also be called environmental authority or mental authority as well. So when I first found out about this, I used to get a little bit confused because I would see it kind of described in different places as different names. So just know that if you are a mental projector, you have what is known as sounding board authority, environmental authority, mental authority, whatever label you want to put on it. This is your type of authority. And now, how to tell if you are a mental projector, just as a quick tip, because some people are sort of like, well, how do I even know? You will only have defined your throat, ajna, or crown. Below your throat, there is nothing defined in your chart. So you'll have your throat chakra, but everything else will be white below your throat. Your throat chakra doesn't necessarily have to be defined either. It might just be your crown and ajna, or it might be your crown, ajna, and throat, or it might just be your ajna and throat, which in my case is what I have. So it's understanding that you're completely open to the world, and you're basically just like one tiny sliver away from being a reflector. You're in the 2% of the world's population. So again, this is like, I know in my case was like the moment that I was like, oh my God, this is why I literally feel like an alien here on Earth. It's not to say that you can't feel that way when you're the other types as well. Like, I mean, there's plenty of us out there who feel like we don't fit in and we're completely alien to everyone around us. But, you know, this is why when we get into understanding ourselves so deeply, this is why it can be so powerful. So sounding board authority is kind of got similarities with self-projected authority, and it really is, again, just that you need to be surrounded by the correct environment, a little bit similar to a reflector, and having a outer world around you, the environment around you that is most supportive and aligned for you is what allows you to get the clarity. But the key here is that you need to be able to bounce your thoughts off someone else. As a mental projector, everything is so freaking busy up here in your mind, and you've got a huge amount of pressure to make logical decisions because that's pretty much all you've got going on. You've only got your mind defined. So that's the busy hub of like, should I do this? Should I say yes to this? Can I go do this? But logically, I know the X, Y, and Z, or here's my 10-step list that I prepared earlier as to whether this is aligned for me or not. And it's understanding that the way you get clarity is using other people in your life as a sounding board. So this is not asking for permission. This is not asking for other people's opinions. This is just quite literally talking out loud, but allowing your voice to kind of bounce back off the people or the person, that you have trusted, who is aligned with you, who is someone who you know you can do this process with because they are kind of like a trusted other soul. And it just gives you that clarity because you're able to hear yourself. You're able to hear your mind at work, and it allows you to reach an aligned decision that is correct for you. And again, the environment around you is so incredibly important because you're so open to the world that conditioning you've taken on board can very easily affect your mind's sort of thoughts and what is actually going on for you. So it's deconditioning from all that, making sure that your environment supports you, and then you can get that clarity when you do soundboard off someone else. So it might be that you've got someone who's a real trusted other person that you can, again, like in the self-projected projector I was talking about, like meeting up and going for a walk and just talking through stuff while you're walking, which allows you to kind of get that clarity because you've heard yourself speaking it out loud. Right through to, you might just have a friend that you voice note, and that process of voice noting each other, you actually answer your own question within your voice note, but it gives you that clarity of actually speaking it out and bouncing it off someone else and hearing yourself say what it is out loud that is aligned for you. And you'll get that clarity once you've given yourself that permission to talk it out, to get it out loud. And just really understanding that you'll feel that pressure to just make decisions from your mind, and actually that's not aligned for you, and you get stuck far too much in your own mind. So you need to get it out of here. That's probably been like my biggest aha moment in my own life, is get it out of my mind and everything's all good. Now, just lastly, dear reflectors, my beautiful reflectors, I know there's actually at least 2 of you in the group here. So I am very, very humbled and privileged that you're here. You're the 1% of the world's population, and it's understanding that your authority is all linked to the lunar cycle. Now, in your masterclass, that will have explained a little bit more about why you are lunar beings as opposed to solar beings, which is the rest of the energy types. And what you need to understand is that, again, your environment around you is so incredibly important because you're so sensitized to the world around you, and you need to make sure that you are supported on that real energetic level by the world around you. You need to understand that you do not need to be rushed to make any sort of decision as a reflector. You go at your own pace. You're living life basically on a completely different energetic spectrum to everyone else. And you kind of are here to be more in tune with that lunar 28-day cycle, which allows you to think of, if your year is split up into all these individual 28-day cycles, think of it like there's a different theme for your life that's going to be going on, whether it's to do with, you know, your career, your family, your relationships, whatever it might be. And each 28-day cycle gives you clarity on whatever that thing is that's coming up for you. So the important thing to remember here is that it's not that if you get an opportunity come your way that you have to wait 28 days from the point that that comes in. It's understanding that whatever place you are within that 28-day cycle, it's just waiting until the completion of that particular cycle. So you might get something come your way that you need to make a decision on straight away at the start of a new cycle, and that's when you would kind of quite literally be waiting the 28 days to get your clarity as it kind of builds and evolves. Or you might actually have something that comes your way or crops up close to the end of the 28-day cycle, and you might actually only be waiting a couple of days. And you can also know, and the more you get to trust yourself and work with this, is that you can actually probably get that clarity during the midst of that cycle, right? You will know from your own excitement or delight or surprise that it makes you feel amazing, that you're like, yeah, actually, I'm pretty certain that this is for me. But just giving yourself that space and time to go through the whole lunar cycle allows you to get just such a deep sense of clarity. And in the meantime, you can kind of like just try on the different flavors of life, be the chameleon, show up every day with a different sort of, you know, hat on, so to speak, so that you get to play and enjoy and evolve, and that gives you that even deeper level of clarity when you come through to the completion of whatever 28-day cycle you're in, lunar cycle, and then you can come out the other side and go, okay, boom, I know this is where I'm headed, this is the direction, and you move into a new 28-day cycle. So you've got that pattern working in your favor to just understand that it's okay for you to have that time on your side. And again, buy yourself time. Don't jump into things. Have some things that allow you just that wiggle room to go, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to need a little bit more time to think on this, or that sounds amazing. I'd love for you to keep me in mind, but I just need to come back to you, or can you get back to me closer to the end of the month, right? And you can start to feel really empowered with it and use it in the way that is correct and aligned for you. So we've made it on through. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you so much for being here, you wonderful, beautiful earthlings. I am going to wrap it up nice and succinctly, and I hope you've loved it. Tag me if you've got any comments, thoughts, aha moments, questions, queries. I'm here for all of it. I am going to go and carry on with the rest of my day. I've got a beautiful event I'm running this afternoon. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. Love you all. Sending you so much full moon love, and we will talk soon.